Okay, so everyone, he already released a little video about what we were going through. Was I back in, it was after I just gotten out of surgery. So I was out of it, so I couldn't be part of that video. So as you guys know, we did have our baby yesterday, and she did at least take one breath and then passed away in my arms. I did deliver her vaginally, so I did have to go through labor, and it was excruciating. I chose not to have an epidural because I wanted to remember all the pain of being able to just have her naturally. And I didn't think that with most cases, with her being 20 weeks and her being where she was, a lot of women can dilate to a 3 or a 4, and then they can push the baby out. I was not as lucky. If you have to say lucky for a situation, there was nothing lucky about it. I had to dilate to close to a 7 to be able to push her out. So what initially happened is I had been feeling extreme pressure for about a week near my vagina. So I was like, man, she's sitting really low. She was still very active. I could still feel her moving around. She wasn't in any distress. I wasn't in any distress. There were no symptoms to alert me that anything was wrong. But I woke up after having a nightmare, and I was having like just a horrible like 3-minute pain on my vagina. Like it was almost like my muscles were like a brick and they were just contracting. I put my hand there, I breathed through it, it passed within 2 minutes, and so I'd never had that happen, so I was a little concerned. So I was like, okay, and then I woke up and I drank some water, I ate some, I felt a lot better. So I thought, well, you can get leg cramps, you can get cramps. I'm 20 weeks, so sometimes Braxton Hicks contractions can start happening then. I had researched so much so that I would know what to do, and I did all the things that, of course, my nurse had told me and my doctor had told me if I was having cramps, and it stopped. I felt better. Well, he came home from work that night, and I had it happen 2 more times, and I was like, by the morning time, I was like, if I have another day or night like that, like I'm gonna go in. So I had talked to, of course, both my moms, his mom and my mom, and they both were concerned and said that, you shouldn't be having this much cramping throughout the day. And so I was like, okay, well, I'm gonna go in tomorrow. Well, I thought by that night that maybe I was having contractions, and I was hoping they were just Braxton Hicks contractions. I called the nurse that day after I'd had the first couple of 2, and she said, okay, because I called because I had, for 6.5 hours, I had this stabbing pain behind my left rib. So I was like, this is not normal, I can't breathe through this hurts. Well, she was moving, and she was a pretty long baby, so when I called, the doctor had told the nurse, okay, well, I think the baby's just pinched her nerve. So I have carpal tunnel syndrome, and I've had some cramping, and meanwhile, I had just had an ultrasound and an appointment on May 16th, and everything was normal. Nothing came back to show that anything was wrong with me. My urine came back great. The ultrasound came back amazing. We got to see her. She was healthy. She was moving around. Everything was perfectly fine. So this came out of the blue, and we didn't know exactly what was going on. Well, I did what they told me to do. Drink lots of water, put your feet up, stay in bed all day, and if it persisted, since I wasn't bleeding or anything at this point, there was no bleeding, there was no discharge. So if I wanted to be seen, yes, I could call the next day and come in and be seen if the problems persisted. So I was so uncomfortable that night. I just kept feeling it. It was really irregular, so I couldn't keep a pattern of if they were actually contractions, or if my pelvic was expanding, because your pelvis can start expanding around 20 weeks too. Every pregnancy is different. And so I had researched so much stuff, and I was starting to get worried toward the morning hours around 5 or 6 in the morning that it was contractions. It started to become very normal and I could keep track of it. So I was like, okay, well, I'm going to call and I'm going to go in. Well, I happened to do laundry and I called my mom because I started to freak out because I was feeling them every 20 minutes at this point, and I could count for how long. It was about a minute or two. I started to freak out because I saw a discharge, and the first discharge I'd seen was probably about 3 o'clock in the morning, and it was really white. And then the second discharge was probably at like 5 o'clock in the morning or 6, and it was really stringy, and I was like, okay, I have read that some women can start going into labor, but they can give you something and stop it if you can go in early enough. Well, I was like, okay, well, I don't know if what was going on all day and all night was actually contractions. At this point, I was sure they were, so I was a little nervous because I figured, yes, I am now in active labor, and I was like, I have such a high pain tolerance. At first, it really felt like hunger pains. Like, some women that are pregnant, their hunger pains are just, like, they're no joke. Because, your body just needs all that food, and the baby needs the food. So, I actually thought it was, like I said, I ate and I felt better. And then I had thought it was Braxton Hicks. Well, at this point, I was pretty sure that I was contracting. So, I drove home. I called my mom. She told me, call them, get seen. So I called them, and they were actually setting it up so that I could be seen. I told them I was not bleeding because I did not know at the time that I actually was. I did not feel it. So, like, within the span of, like, literally 3 minutes after I called the office, I had to go to the restroom. I went to the restroom. I wiped. There was a lot of blood and discharge. And so I started to panic a little bit, but I was like, I have to stay calm because I could still feel her moving around. So I was like, okay, I know that as a pregnant woman, when you have a baby, all of your emotions will affect that child. And so I have been really calm throughout my whole pregnancy. No matter what's upsetting me or anything like that, I have been able to have, I am amazing with my emotions. I was able to stay as calm as I could through even the most uncomfortable situations. So I woke him up immediately. I called the doctor's office. My doctor's 45 minutes away because the hospitals here, yes, they have really good doctors, but they're so booked because it's such a small town. So I wanted to be able to see a doctor every time and not have to see a nurse practitioner. So I picked somebody, in the city. And so they told me, no, you're bleeding. You can't come here. You need to go straight to your emergency room and see how bad it is. And then if we can transport you, we will. So at this point, he drove me to the emergency room. They were really good. They got me into a wheelchair, got me back as soon as they could. They were trying to make sure that they had everybody ready to take care of me. I had the most amazing team the whole day yesterday. If it would not have been for the 2 doctors that I did have and the nurse that I had, I do not think I could have handled the experience the way I did. They were absolutely amazing, and they deserve a lot of praise. They were so good, not only to try and prevent me from having the baby, but just trying to make sure both of us were well taken care of, take the best course of action. Well, I get in. They, of course, they do the ultrasound. They find the baby's heart. The baby's heart is perfectly fine. The baby was perfectly fine. I, on the other hand, was not. I had dilated 2 centimeters. So when they took a picture, because my cervix is right there, here was my cervix, here was her head, and the dilation was already like here. So they asked me, have you smelt anything with your discharge? Of course, I hadn't. But at this point, I had a fever of about 99.1 or 99.7. So they were like, okay, well, the nurse, when she went to test, because then I had to be tested to see if the water had broke. Because she had amazing fluid around her, but if my water broke, because I was in active labor, they couldn't just stitch my cervix because
most of the time, if you're not in active labor, they can go in there and they can stitch it, and that can stop the process. And they had already given me a pill by this point to help try and stop, the first pill to help try and stop me from dilating any further and contracting. But because I was so far into active labor, and this is where we found out, I actually had an infection, and yes, my water had broken. It was just a little tiny little perforation that probably happened when I had started feeling the pressure the week before, when I thought she had just moved a little lower, which it was normal when it came up on the ultrasound, so it didn't happen. It happened like 2 days or 3 days after my appointment, unfortunately. So probably around the 18th. Probably around the 18th. Well, it must have perforated a little bit, which as soon as your water perforates, that leaves room for any little bacteria. It can be anything to cause an infection. Sometimes it's nothing, but I have B negative blood. So we were already going to have to get a shot at 28 weeks and then one after I deliver, because if the baby's blood is positive and mine is negative, my body will attack a baby for future, if we tried to have future children, and I would miscarry.
Dare to give you a shot?
Huh?
Dare to give you a shot.
Yeah. Now I have the shot. But at this point, when the nurse went to test, I saw her face, and when she pulled her hand back, there was quite a bit of blood, and there was a lot of discharge. So at this point, I knew my mucus plug was gone, and I was very sure my water was broken. They did not think that my water was broken. They tested it. That's when they found out there was a perforation. Well, the nurse she said, I've been a nurse for 22 years. She's like, I smelled it. She's like, I smelled the infection, and I told them right away. Well, they tested me. They realized I did have an infection. My infection was too far. It already, of course, gotten to the baby, and she was perfectly fine, though. She was still healthy. We monitored her heart, and they were really trying to get it to where I would not have to have her, so we could keep her in. But when they realized that there was no way we were going to be able to save her or keep her in, of course, I got started on antibiotics, because it was a pretty bad infection. So the pill they gave me to stop me from contracting and dilating did not work. I kept going into active labor, and then I actually passed the 3 and 4 centimeters to where usually most women can push it out, and she was not going to be able to come out. So I got stuck on 5 centimeters contracting for 3.5 hours. We were trying to push because, we thought we could get her out. And by now I'd had 2 or 3 pills to keep helping me try and dilate and contract, because they didn't want the baby to be in distress or me to be in distress, and they wanted us to be able to at least have some moments with her after I delivered, with her still alive and breathing for a little bit. They were giving me a little bit of pain medicine as well. Nothing was working to help my pain. Nothing was working to really get me dilated. Well, when I was pushing at 5 centimeters, one hand came out and her head came out, but her shoulder was stuck, and there was nothing we could do. And they were doing amazing for me. I was handling the pain amazingly. They said that I have such a high pain tolerance. I wasn't crying at this point. I was just breathing through it. I was very calm. But then all of the medicine hit me at once, and I dilated and started contracting. It was almost nonstop. At this point, I was in excruciating amount of pain. Every time they had to put their hands in there for me to push, it was just excruciating. It was too much. I could feel her being distressed. I was being distressed. They knew that. I was able to ask for something they could put into my IV. It would calm me down enough, but it would make me very drowsy. And they just wanted me to be able to remember delivering her. But the doctors were in tears. They did not want to see me in pain anymore. Nobody wanted to see me in that much pain. I just wanted to make sure she was fine and she wasn't distressed. She was still fine, but I could feel her going into distress and I was going into distress. I told them, please just give me something because I know I can get her out, but I can't deal with this pain and deal with all of this right now. Like, I'm doing the best I can. They knew I was. They told me that I was doing amazing, but I just knew, like, I didn't want her to suffer. I didn't care if I was suffering. I'd go through all of that pain again just for that moment with her again. So at this point, all of the medicine has hit me at once. I'm pretty out of it, but his mom was right here holding my hand. He was right here. I had one doctor sitting right here, another doctor here, and a nurse right here. And so they left for a little bit to make sure that there was somebody on standby in case I did need surgery, because they were concerned that after they got her out, I might bleed quite a bit. And so they were already trying to make sure everything was in a row so that I would have no problems and they could take care of me and still allow me to have that moment with her. And so I'm in so much pain. At a certain point, I felt like she was just going to come. And I was ready and she was ready. I told him to go get the nurse. I pushed one huge big push and she came out. And I was probably close to a 7 by then, where I was at a 7. And I was really out of it. I don't remember that much, but I know she took a breath and moved her arm and she passed. So they did have to cut the umbilical cord and put her in my arms, and it was very, very hard. I got to hold her for a little bit, but I could feel myself gushing blood, and I just knew I wasn't okay. And I also didn't want to take that time away from him or anybody else. I didn't want them super trying to worry about me gushing blood and holding her at the same time. I wanted everybody to get that moment, because I got to have that first moment, and it was the most beautiful thing I've ever experienced in my life. So I felt myself gushing blood. I knew something was not okay. They were already on top of it. They were trying to get placental sac out, but it's separated. So I had to have, I think it's called a DNC, I think. It's what I had to have. I got rushed back. They put me under for surgery. They took it out. They cleaned it out. I had been bleeding quite a bit. They had their moment, his parents and his grandpa, and they had their moment with the baby while I was in surgery. I was supposed to be in surgery for 30 minutes, but I was back there for about an hour and a half. They wanted to 100% make sure that I was okay. I was given the best care. Everybody was so amazing and so sweet, and nobody wanted to see me in pain. Everybody was just as emotional as we were when the baby came out. The doctors were in tears. Everybody did not want to see that happen. They did everything in their power to prevent us from having to have her, because at 20 weeks the survival rate is only 3 to 5%. So I remember like people trying to talk to me as I was being rushed back. And I remember just thinking, 1, I don't have my glasses on, so everybody's blurry. 2, I'm really out of it. And 3, I'm just glad my baby's not in any pain and she went peacefully. And I remember they put the mask on and they're like, okay, take a couple deep breaths. I do remember saying, I don't think this is work. And then I was out. And I woke up, and of course I had the oxygen on, and I was looking around, and I was really confused about where I was. That was the first time I've ever been put under. I've never been put under in my life. And then they made sure that I was okay. They made sure that I wasn't gushing blood anymore. I was just bleeding normally now. They took me back to the room. I had some more time with her. And then we said our goodbyes and handed her over to the funeral home. But there was nothing that I could have done, nothing he could have done, nothing the doctors could have done. This just happens. There was no way to pinpoint anything that anybody could have done. There was nothing we did wrong. There was nothing I did wrong. There was nothing he did wrong. And in a lot of these cases, parents want to blame themselves. Both the mother blames herself, the father will blame himself, or they play the blame game. And here's the thing. Everybody wants a reason for why things happen, and sometimes there's really not a reason. And the doctors had said that. We had asked many questions before I became too much in pain to be able to speak. We had asked, is it because I did this? Is it because I worked too much? Because I work overnight, so I'm on my feet a lot. Was it because, of having animals, or was it because of something I ate, or could it have been any of this? They answered all of those questions. Nobody knows why a little perforation happens in my water. The only thing we did get is that it happens to 1 out of 300 women. Some women just have an incompetent cervix, and I happen to. You can't test for it. There's no way to know until you have your first child and you're further along. That's why they can do a stitch. Well, that's the only thing that I do know, that I do have a incompetent cervix, so it was a little harder to carry a first child for me. But that was something that they didn't know, and it didn't show up, and my cervix was perfectly fine on the May 16th ultrasound. Everything was fine. So it's one of those things. There's not a reason for it. It just happens. But parents, in this situation, I want women and men alike to know, women, don't blame yourselves. It's not your fault, okay? There's nothing you could have done. It just happens. And it's something, I know it's really hard, and it's a very tough thing to go through. But you can't blame yourself. Just like dads equally, don't blame yourself. There's nothing you could have done either. Like, things just happen. Everything happens for a reason, and sometimes you don't know what that reason is. But God has a bigger plan for everything. And so I want everybody to know that there was nothing we could have done. There's nothing anybody could have done at that point. Like, that's just what had to happen. And there was no catching it. There was no helping it. And I was too far with infection and too far into labor when I went in, because I just couldn't. My body wasn't feeling a lot of stuff that would have been indicators. So when I went in, it was almost too far, but they did their best, and I did my best to make sure we could have kept her, but it did not happen. But I did have her vaginally, and it was one of the worst pains I've ever felt in my life, not just physically, but mentally and emotionally as well. But everybody, I would just like to thank everybody at the hospital and our nurse and just everybody that has, contacted us and has been, just trying to look out for us and praying for us and just being there for us. This is a really hard time for us, and it's going to come in waves. I am the type of person that I worry about everybody else before I worry about myself, and that was my problem yesterday. I was being strong for everybody else, so by the time I hit that 6 or 7, I could not talk or anything. I was in too much pain. I distracted myself so much trying to be strong for everybody else that it hit me really hard. And then it's really hard to sleep because you go through all that pain and you think, I should be bringing a baby home, but I'm not. And when I wanted to go to sleep last night, I just wanted to put my hands there, but she's not there, so it felt very wrong for me to do that. But we're still parents, even though we don't have her. We still are parents, and we just want other couples to know that if you feel like anything is wrong, because I did feel like, hey, something's wrong with my body, and I called, but I know now, even if I would have went in the first day, there was nothing they could have done because of how far the infection was, and my body was showing no signs of infection. So I just want everybody to know, it doesn't matter how many questions you have, how much you're feeling like this is wrong. You know your body better than anyone. So if you feel like something's wrong, or you just want to be seen for peace of mind, you go in. You make them see you. You make them be gentle with you. Don't let them be rough with you. You make your voice heard because you're the one having the baby. You're the one with all of the power in your hand. You're the one that's going to be taking care of you and that baby. And your partner is going to help you. You guys go in as a strong force. And if you don't have a partner, that's perfectly fine. You can do it. You just tell them, hey, something's wrong and I want to be seen. I know my body. And if you feel like something's wrong, just go in, no matter what. Like, even if you feel like, oh, well, you know, I'm doing everything I can. Even if you've been checked out, they say everything's fine, and you are doing what you've done, and your pain goes away for a little bit but comes back like mine, don't hesitate to call. Don't hesitate to go in. Like, do what you need to do. And be more educated about things. Thankfully, I researched a lot to where as soon as I hit that couple of hour mark and I knew what I was looking at, I knew I needed to be seen, and I did what I needed to do to be seen. But like I said, that first day it was so irregular, and there's so many things that it could be. And I did do what I was supposed to. I did call. I did do the things I needed to. But you don't need to be that afraid. You need to just go in. Like, don't bother calling sometimes. Sometimes you can just go in and call and tell them you're coming in, because that's what you need to do. But we have a couple of things that we'd like to tell everybody that the wonderful nurse allowed us to do while I was out of it, and while I was back in surgery. He'll tell you a little bit more about what she did.
I'm really sorry. I was trying to be okay. Just real quick, going back to something she said earlier, I just once again I want to tell everyone thank you. Just everyone for sending their prayers and their thoughts, and I want to give that medical staff such a big shout out, Dr. Liedtke, Dr. Newman. I want to thank them, and then our nurse that we had, Molly. Thank you all, and just the whole medical team that we had, and just everyone that was there, and just worked with us and just helped and gave support, and just any little thing that you all did all made the difference. And I wanted to tell my family, my dad, my mom, my grandpa, thank you all for being there.
And our two friends,
and then,
Jessica and Kayla.
I want to thank our friends Jessica and Kayla for being there, and I also want to thank our friends Zack and Raymond. They kind of took care of everything here at home for us while we were gone. And the last big shout out I really want to give is to the father. I'm so sorry I can't remember his name at the moment. I'll leave his name down in the description, because I'm going to leave thank yous to everybody. He came and he blessed her right before she gave birth, and after they took her back for her little procedure, I was with the baby, and my parents and my grandpa were there, and the father came back and he blessed the baby, and I just want to say thank you. I'm really sorry. This is really hard. This is actually her room. We made a video for you guys a few days, the night before, doing a reveal of our new home. And in that video, we had told you guys this was going to be her room, and we weren't going to reveal this to y'all yet, but we wanted to do this here in her room. And it's been a little harder on me, as she's been a lot stronger, and she's tried to be stronger for me too, and it's just really hard. And anyway, so this was the blanket that Madison was actually wrapped in when they gave her to us. Well, after they got her cleaned up, they put her in this blanket. And, they let us bring it home with us, and we took pictures with her in it. And we're not going to show any of those. Just that is for us only and our family, and just those that are truly close to us. That's just something we feel is sacred to us, and we just do not wish to show.
Or share with anyone.
This box Molly prepared for us. It actually has quite a few different things. It has books and scriptures and just things just to really help with the grieving process. But what has also been added to this box is pictures from the ultrasounds, sonograms, and when they dressed her up for pictures, which Molly did an amazing job on the pictures. She put her in a little gown. Well, she couldn't really put her in it just because how brittle she was. But you put the gown and a little cap on her head, and it still has her blood on it. We brought that home with us. It's all in this box. Pretty much everything that we could bring is in this box, just so we can remember Madison and just have her. And we, like she said, we contacted the funeral home once we all said our goodbyes, and they took her, and then we will go this weekend to make our arrangements to decide what we are going to do with her, and how we want to go about that. We've talked about a few things, but just for our privacy and security of us and our family, we're going to keep those things we've discussed to ourselves. Just because I know everyone has their own thoughts on certain things when it comes to these situations, and we've kind of decided on one, but like I said, I don't want to go into that right now. The important thing is, like she said, she's okay. She's in a better place. She's not suffering. She's okay, and
she came out 1 pound,
yes,
9 inches.
She was born at 7:24 yesterday.
Beautiful, long legs and big feet and a really beautiful big head, and she was just very, very just perfect in every single way.
Yes, she was amazing.
But I also want to say that we made this video too to make sure everybody knew the process that we went through, because I know people were all worried and saying, well, the doctors, people get worried and they want to make sure that you're getting the best care, and people were like, doctors can do this and they can do this.
They did an amazing job.
They did everything they could, and we need people to understand that at 20 weeks, life is not that viable, and the doctors did everything they could, but circumstances for every pregnancy are different. So just because somebody else's baby might have survived at 21 weeks or anything like that doesn't mean I was already with infection. I was already 2 centimeters dilated. Every body and every pregnancy is different. And I need people to know that. And I was a week away from being 6 months. I was really close to that mark. If I'd have had 8 more days or 9 more days, I would have been 22 weeks. Because I was a day or 2 away from 21. So she would have had a better chance. But because I had an infection and a lot of just other things we didn't know about that you can't test for, that's why it didn't work. But I wanted to make sure we shared this with you. I wanted to make sure that people wouldn't hear our story and know what we're going through. It's very tough to have to deliver your baby and not come home with one. So I just need people to respect that. That's a very tough thing to do, to deliver your baby, hold her, and not get to bring her home. So I just need people to know that, there's nothing that was done wrong. We did everything we could, so it's going to be really tough for us, but we're leaning on each other. We know we're going to get through this, and grieving comes in waves, and we're not the only ones affected. We know that some of y'all are going to be affected, and we know our families are very affected and we're all kind of destroyed and heartbroken right now, but we want you guys to know that, if we touched your life or Madison touched your life, we're glad to hear that we have so much love and support, because we're lucky. There are other people that don't have that. We're really lucky. We have support systems, and we have these great people in place that God puts in our lives at the right time. And so we just want people to respect our story, respect what we've told you. Now you know the whole story. And, if you do have opinions about things or what you think could have been done or anything like that, please do keep that to yourself, because we know the truth and we know what we went through with the staff, and we know that everybody did their best. So
eventually, like she said, it comes in waves, and we've already kind of gone through it. We've had our moments where we're sad, but we're looking on the upside of things, and we're trying to be positive, and we've surprisingly, we've actually been really strong, and we've had our family, and I'm thankful for her family too. Unfortunately, they're pretty far away right now. They're off in another state, and so they couldn't be here. But we were communicating all day long yesterday, and that's what's going to bring me to my next thing. You know, the fight really for our family isn't 100% over. I mean, we know where we're at here, and I asked you all for prayers, and I thank you all, but I want to ask you for some more prayers for her sister. That's her baby. She's having issues too, and her sister has had some issues, like she said, and so as of right now, and I spoke to her yesterday, she seems to be okay, but she is still.
She's being monitored very closely. She's going through a lot right now. She's already had preterm labor. She's gone in. She's been having a lot of problems. So if you guys could really pray for her, and
if you guys could send her some prayers on that. She actually like me, she does have a YouTube channel.
Yes,
and I will be leaving a link down to that in the description. So if you guys want to check her channel out, just to send her some prayers and some support, just for the rest of their family, and just all the love her and her husband could use right now, and support. That would be great, and that honestly would be great. That'd be great for us right now too. So. Anyways,
we will update you on our journey. We'll let you guys know how we're doing. I did get the shot, so we will try again eventually.
So moving forward, when she was back in the back yesterday, and she kind of talked to her about this again today, but when I spoke to her, I kind of wanted to get my own perspective on things. I spoke to the doctor about moving forward, as far as trying to have more kids, we still can. About a good 2 to 3 month wait, of course. We want to make sure she heals, and we want to have time emotionally to heal before we think about trying. So within time, of course, we will try. Maybe sometime later on this year, maybe next year, I don't know, we'll see. And so the steps we take now is, and this goes for anyone else that would eventually go through this, is she got the shot because of her B negative blood for the next pregnancy. And whenever we do find out we're pregnant again, that first trimester, she would have to get that suture, or whatever, with the stitch on her cervix. And basically, if she can hold that between that 28 to 35 week mark, which obviously she made it to halfway point just about, with that shot, and with the suture alone, it has about a 75% success rate. So there's already a positive and a plus upside there. And then stacking on top of that with the shot, that will increase that rate, and hopefully, things will go a lot better.
They're going to help me. They said, as long as I can make it to 28 weeks and whatnot, and they'll keep a really close eye on it. Of course, I will have to have another shot, because you do have to keep getting these shots. It's not, a one shot cures all. But with the suture and with the shot, my chances jump up dramatically. And because this team, knows me so well, if I do, when we do eventually try again, they have said that they will be there for us every step of the way, no problem. And so my chances will go up dramatically. If I can last to that 28 to 34 week mark, whether I have to deliver the baby earlier because of the way my cervix is, that might be something that we might have to look into. But the baby will have a way better, amazing chance at survival. I was born 2 months early. He was born
2 months early as well. And I actually had open heart surgery, and see, that was the thing that we were worried about, the concern. And her heart was always so strong, and that's something else I forgot. I'm so sorry. One more shout out to all the shout outs earlier. Our original doctor that we weren't able to see yesterday, Dr. Stanley, him and his team as well. They were doing such an amazing job, and that's the hard thing too. He saw the baby last week. Everything was fine. So going back to that, there was nothing there was
He
no
was
way.
on the phone with
They
Dr.
yeah,
Liedtke all
they
day
actually
yesterday.
they were communicating, and from both ends there was no way to predict it from both ends. So it's not something that one or the other missed or something. They were both on the same page.
The exact same page on what to do.
Anyways, like we were saying, yes. So I was premature, and when I was born, about 5 months in, I had to have open heart surgery. So it was something that I was really worried about, and it's something we'll still worry about in the future when we try to have more children. And like she was saying too, she was premature, and we both just really ran into complications when we were babies.
But we were both really strong babies,
Yes.
and Madison was born a very strong baby. She was 100% healthy.
Yes.
But you know, just at that age, their lungs are not developed, so they cannot breathe or live outside of the mother's body. But she was really strong. I was a very strong baby. She was a very strong baby. So if we can just, whenever we do have a child at some point, we can make it to that weak point like we told you to, I believe we won't have any problems. And we were both strong babies. We've both been raised by strong mothers. And it takes, you know, it takes a strong mother to raise a strong child. And so we're both strong people because we were raised right and very strong to get through everything. We were strong babies. We had a very strong baby, and I am very sure in the future we will get our chance and we will be able to share that amazing, beautiful journey with you again. No matter what the outcome is, anytime, we will be prepared for it because we have each other. So.
Anyways, thank you all for taking the opportunity. If you stuck around for the entire video, once again, just like last night, this isn't a like, comment, subscribe video in no ways at all. But because this is going on my channel, I do want to give you all an update from my end. We did film a bunch of videos the other night, but due to the unfortunate circumstances and just mentionings of Madison and just a lot of things that we mentioned of Madison and things we look forward to with Madison, I have deleted those videos. As far as all the videos leading up to now, from the announcement to the gender reveal to the doctor's appointments, I did not delete any of those videos. I will not delete any of those videos. If you look back on the channel, you will notice you will no longer find those videos. They're just put on private for me and my family to go back and watch if we choose. And I hope that you all can respect and accept that. So, of course, I'll need some time. We'll both need a little time, and within good time, we'll be okay. And I'll be bringing you guys. We both will be bringing you some videos on this channel again. So that's just something I wanted to throw out there for you all, and just thank you for all the support again. Thank you for the prayers and just any comments and keeping us in your thoughts. For Madison's sake and for our family's sake. And like I said, if you can send prayers to her sister, and also if you can send prayers to my mother and her mother. They have some medical things going on right now I won't go into just because it's too much at the moment, and they're fighting right now really, really hard, and this was really hard on them, especially on top of everything they had going on. So it's just in a way it hasn't really broken our family. It's brought us together, and
just broken spirits.
Yes, it's just broken spirits, but we've all mended together and come together in a time when we really needed to, and I just can't thank our family, all of our family together for coming together in such a terrible time. So, and I just want to tell you all thank you for watching, and thank you for supporting us and just being there. So that's pretty much going to be it, you guys, and we just wanted to give you a full detail of what was going on, and we'll be seeing you, and if you know us and you see us around, feel free to call, say hello. So, anyways, I just wanted to share this stuff with you and tell you the story again. So, thank you all for watching, and we'll see you soon.